Hello everyone. It is Wednesday, June 25th. I did not record yesterday because Adriana came to work with me. Camp was canceled and I moved my recording to today. As you can see, I have my supplies here that I'm bringing to work today, so please don't mind the clutter behind me. So today, what I want to talk about is a specific podcast I've been listening to. This guest was on Jay Shetty's show. Her name is Kai Dickens, and she was on the show talking about her podcast, the Telepathy tapes. And I just found it very interesting because I have to say I can relate to it in a way. I've always felt that my son has a gift. He was born with a gift. And some people may think I'm crazy or may not believe it. And I was 100% skeptical. The only reason I believed it was because I felt things while I was pregnant with him, and then it disappeared after. So kind of to explain what the Telepathy Tapes podcast is about. The first season was mainly about kids that can communicate through telepathy, and it explains about non-talkers, so children that have children that are autistic or are nonverbal, they can't speak, and it was identified by several parents and some teachers and some aides that children were able to read the minds of the parent, of the teacher, of different individuals. So this really intrigued me. And then as it went on, the podcast and the different episodes, there were different people that were able to read minds of, other people, or I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's also like you could read their energy or their emotions. I don't know. But anyway, mainly that's what it was about. And that was the first episode, the first series. Because I think now they're in the second series, or season, whatever they call it. I'm sorry. But I know it was 10 episodes, the first round. In there, they also presented a woman that had a brain injury and near-death experience, or she was dead for I don't know how many seconds or minutes or 3 minutes or something like that. So because of that experience, she had a gift of being able to communicate or see people that have passed on. So that was like a different type of telepathy or different type of spiritual connection with the beyond. So here you're introduced to different forms of telepathy or different forms of spiritual connection to something bigger and beyond us. So the reason why I am so interested in it, and I am only in season 2, I guess episode 3. So I'm still listening to it, but so many things that they spoke about reminded me of situations and instances that I experienced with my son, and things that my son would tell me. There's some kids that would share things that they could predict or could see or were told that would happen, and then it did happen. Or some kids were able to see different people that have passed, and my son had, shared that with me several times when he was younger. And then they even shared that these children have a very close connection to water and animals, and my son has this connection to water and animals that, sometimes he's in the shower for 3 hours and I'm like, what are you doing in there? And this past Sunday, we were actually at my brother's pool, and he was just like laying there, and I could see that he was in this like bliss. He was just in this bliss. And he was in the pool. He was just floating on the pool. And he just feels so comfortable there. So a lot of these children have that connection. There's a connection to music. My son loves music. Just different things. So kind of to backtrack and explain a little bit why I feel that my son has this gift. When I was pregnant with my son, he's my first, he's 18 years old now. When I was pregnant with him, in the condo where we lived, I would see visions. So I would see this cowboy like by my bedroom door, and I would like wake up my husband in the middle of the night and be like, look at that cowboy, like just standing there. He's just standing there. And then I would see this old woman just standing there. And it was strange because I felt like it wasn't like I was scared, but I was surprised. Like, what are they doing? Like, what is happening? Like, why am I seeing this? And my husband obviously didn't see it. And he would just say like, it's the shadow. It's coming from the light from outside. And he just never saw it. But I saw it. There would be times I would be in the kitchen and I'd be doing the dishes or cooking on the stove. And the way our kitchen was, we knocked down a wall. So it was like an open floor plan. So I could see into my living room, my dining room. It was all like interconnected. And I had a big mirror in the wall where I would face if I was utilizing my stove. So I would see shadows because then there was like a hallway on the right side. And that mirror would capture, not me, because it was like in the middle, but it would capture like part of the hallway, like the middle of the living room and the dining room. And I would just feel like an energy or feel like a shadow. And I would always like look and walk back, and I'm like, what am I feeling? Like I couldn't understand it. And I just thought it was because I was tired, part of the pregnancy, whatnot. So I remember I spoke to my gynecologist, who was a Jewish woman. And I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm seeing things. I see this woman by my door, this cowboy. I don't understand. I see like shadows. And she said something very interesting to me. And she said, well, your child that you're carrying, and I didn't know it was a boy. We never found out with all three of our kids what we were having. She said, your child that you're carrying is gifted. You have a special child in you, like they're gifted. And I'm like, gifted? Like, what are you talking about? What is the gift that they can see? Like people, images? I don't know, dead people? I didn't understand. I'd never ever felt that before or seen that before, or I can't remember ever feeling that. So I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. So I left it alone. Then I would continue to see all these things. And she even said, she's like, watch, after you have the baby, you'll stop seeing these things. And I was like, okay. So I had my son, and sure enough, I stopped seeing the woman, the cowboy, the shadows. I stopped feeling that like someone or something was there with me. So I just kind of like let it go. Like my son was born, we were happy, and I kind of forgot about it. As my son was growing up, and he was a baby, me and my husband would always notice that he would always look up and like laugh and smile and like reach up, and we were like look at the ceiling, like what is he looking at? Who is he playing with? And who is he smiling with? Like, because it wasn't with us. You can clearly tell he was somewhere else. So that happened, and as he started growing up, he would start saying things. I would say when he was like 2 or 3, and mind you, my son at like 1 and a few months, or 3-4 months, he didn't talk a lot. So I was concerned because my niece, that was also 1, they were a month apart, she was a chatterbox. Like there were times she would speak for him, and I'd be like, what is going on? Like this boy is not talking. And I took him, I talked to his pediatrician, and he was like, it's okay. Some kids, it takes longer. And I remember for his like 1.5, I think I took him for like a doctor's appointment. He was 1.5. And I asked my sister-in-law, can I bring my niece? And she's like, yeah. So I brought my niece with me. And I told my niece, like, Carolina, speak. And she spoke. And then I told Andres, speak, say something, and my son was not speaking, or he would speak like few words here and there. And I told the doctor, see what I mean? Like, he doesn't speak. Look at her. She speaks so fluently. So he said, okay, I'm going to refer you to a speech therapist. So I went to a speech therapist. He started seeing her at 1.5, and he saw her till he was about 4, I would say. Because then when he went into school, then they offered speech therapy to him there because he qualified. So I stopped, because this was private. So my insurance covered part of it. And this was back then. And I remember it was half an hour. And I was paying $85 out of my pocket. And the insurance was paying the rest. I will never forget that, because I was like, so my son's 18. So this is 16 and a half years ago. So I did that until he was able to do speech in school. Anyway, fast forward. As he started talking, he started saying things. He started saying, like, if I would put a shirt on or something on him, he'd be like, no, change it. And he would change the shirt to a different shirt. We would go to my mom's house, and the shirt would have a number on it or something. And my mom loved to play like this Dominican lottery. And she would be like, oh, he has a number 13. Let me play it for the Dominican lottery. And it would hit. She would win. She'd be like, he gave me the number. Like, and I would think, like, he changed his shirt. He knew we were coming here. Like, did he do that on purpose? I don't know. Then he started saying things, like predicting things. One of my cousins was pregnant, and he said, she's having a girl. And we were like, how do you know? He's like, I just know she's having a girl. And sure enough, she had a girl. His teacher, his kindergarten teacher, was pregnant. And I remember one time I said, oh, how is she doing with the baby? She was like 8 months pregnant. And I said, how is she doing? How does she look? And he just looked at me and said, I'm sorry, Mom, but that baby's not gonna be born. Like, it's not coming. Like, she's not having that baby. I'm like, let's pray. Don't say that. Why are you saying that? And he's like, I don't know, Mom. I don't know why, but I just feel like, or someone's telling me that this baby's not gonna be born. Like, this baby's not gonna make it. 2 weeks after that, I got a text message from the teacher that the baby had the umbilical cord around her neck. It was a girl, and she suffocated in her belly. She had to deliver the baby. And I was just like, oh my God, how did my son know this? Like, how did he know this? And just several things kept happening. I myself got pregnant, and I remember, or I think I said it, but said it to the family or whatever. My son never said anything. Or maybe I didn't say it. I don't know, but I lost a pregnancy to an ectopic pregnancy. And that was in 2000, that was December 2009. And I lost the baby. It was terrible. It was an ectopic pregnancy. Then July 2010, I got pregnant right away, which was not planned. July of 2010, I lost a second baby, another ectopic, and this one, my tube bursted, like I almost died. It was terrible. I was internally bleeding. My doctor was so upset at me. My uterus was so weak. And I mean, it wasn't intentional. We weren't trying. Like, I was trying to heal, but it happened. I remember I came home from the hospital, and my son said to me, like maybe 2-3 weeks later, my son says to me, you're pregnant, Mom, and it's a girl. And I was like, no, sweetie, like, I lost the baby. I thought, like, he's traumatized, poor kid. He was like, no, Mom, you're pregnant. It's a girl. She's not going to be easy. In the belly or out. Be ready. And I'm like, this poor kid, he's so confused. So this was July. Like, end of July, beginning of August, I believe he told me. Because I had lost the baby in the beginning of July. Then I go to my doctor, routine checkup, September. My doctor goes, do you know you're pregnant? And I said, no, I'm not pregnant. What are you talking about? She said, yes, you are pregnant. She was so upset with me also. And I said, you're lying. And she's like, yeah, you're like 2+ months pregnant. Like, you're, she had said like 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, something like that. And I calculated, and I said, oh my God, my son told me I was pregnant. He said it was a girl. She's not going to be easy in my belly. She's not going to be easy out. Like, oh my God. So then I remember we knew, we didn't tell anyone. I was petrified. I thought I was going to lose a third baby. Anyway, so long story short, I said to my son, hey, we're at like 20 weeks. Do you want me to find out what I'm having, a girl or a boy? And he goes, why? Like, what? Why are you going to find out if I told you it's a girl? And I said, I don't know. Papi wants to know. And he was like, but you know, it's a girl. I'm telling you, it's a girl. So I said, okay. So then, and my whole family, are you going to find out what you're having? I said, you know, Andres told me it's a girl. He doesn't want me to find out. And they were like, you're listening to a 5-year-old? Like, what is wrong with you? If you want to, and I didn't want to find out. Honestly, I did not want to find out. My husband did, but I said, hey, let's just please him in this, you know, and not find out. And he was like, no, don't find out. Like, I'm telling you, it's a girl. I know it's a girl. And she's not going to be easy. And then one time I was in the bathroom taking a bath, and I remember him sitting on the toilet, and he goes, Mom, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, yeah, you know, what do you have to tell me? He goes, so you know how I told you it's a girl and she's not going to be easy in the belly or when she comes out? And he goes, so I want you to know that, I'll never forget this, that she is probably not going to move out of the house being married. She's going to like move out with a boyfriend, maybe 2, and then maybe she'll marry like her 2nd or 3rd boyfriend. But I just want you to know she's not going to leave the house like married. But I will. Like, I'm going to leave my house and I'll be like leaving the house because I'm getting married. And I was like, how is this 5-year-old kid telling me this? Like, it was just so strange. I just thought it was so odd. But I was like, all right, I don't know. And then he goes, and just so you know, she's going to be gorgeous. Like, she's going to be beautiful. This girl's going to be beautiful. So just be prepared. And I'm like, all right. Okay. So that happened. I went into labor. Sure enough, it was a girl. No one knew. I mean, she came out, my husband, and mind you, he said she was not going to be easy in the belly or out. During that pregnancy, I got an anal abscess. I had 3 surgeries without any anesthesia. It was terrible. Right after I delivered her, 2 weeks later, I had major surgery. Then 2 months later, I had another major surgery. Because while I was pregnant with her, I had that anal abscess. So I was like, oh my God, it's like what he said. She's not going to be easy in the belly and she's not going to be easy out. And she is my most difficult child, I will admit. My most high maintenance child, I should say. Anyway, so he had predicted that. And all these things, like, to me, I was like, this is unbelievable. So as I would share his story and his things, I had friends, I would say, can he tell me something? Like, can you ask him? And I would tell him, I'm like, Andres, this person wants to know, are they ever going to get pregnant or whatever? And he was like, Mom, it doesn't work like that. Like, I don't know. They just tell me things. And I'm like, who's they? And he's like, I don't know. It's just like they tell me things. And remember, this is a child. And my husband was very skeptical, like, no, stop supporting him with this. It's, you know, I respect that, but, you know, I don't believe it. And I'll be honest, the only reason I believed it is because I lived it. I saw 2 people, which then I learned from the person we purchased a condo from. She said, oh, there was a cowboy that died in the building and he roams around. And there's an old woman that died in the building and she roams around. So I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? So I did see there. Anyway, so there was some truth to those individuals being there, or those spirits, or whatever you want to call it. And I felt like I was going crazy, but I did see those shadows. Anyway, I want to share one last thing before I wrap up, because I don't want to make this too long, because I have tons and tons of stories I can share, but this one was very significant to me. I remember my son was in 6th grade, so he must have been 10, 11, maybe 12, 10 or 11. And I'm dropping him off. And as I'm dropping him off, he starts saying, Mom, there's a trip today. And I'm like, there's a trip today? Do I need to give you money? Do you need lunch? Like, what happened? You didn't tell me. And he's like, no, Mom, there's a trip today and something bad is going to happen. Like, they should cancel the trip. And but he wasn't like clear. Like, I didn't know if it was his trip, a school trip, his school trip. Like, I was like, what are you talking about? You have a school trip? Like, did I sign the form? Do you need something? And he was like, no, Mom, like, I don't know. All they're saying is there's a trip and something bad's going to happen. They should cancel the trip. And mind you, this is at drop off. So I'm rushing. He's rushing. I had a baby at home. My youngest daughter was 7, 8 months. She's 7 now. So yeah, my son was like 10 or 11. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, Andres, what? You need money? You need lunch? He's like, no, Mom. He's like, I don't know. Like, no, I don't need, it's not me. I don't have a trip, but something's going to happen. There's a trip and something's going to happen. Needless to say, that is the day that there was the bus accident in Paramus for the Eastbrook children. And it was my son's grade, the 6th grade trip. And I felt so guilty because then I remember I was in my living room and I was carrying my daughter. I was 7, 8 months at the time. And I start hearing on the news and my phone starts going off. And all it said was bus crash, severe injuries, children that were going to the Dunkerhook, I believe that's what it was, a Dunkerhook trip. It was a middle school in Paramus, New Jersey. And I just like dropped my daughter and lost it. And all I thought was my son told me today that this was happening. And I didn't know what school it was because they didn't give details. So I didn't know if it was my son's school. I didn't know if it was my son's grade. I didn't know what happened. I kind of felt like it wasn't his class or his grade because he told me it wasn't him. And I do remember he had that same trip the week before, but I wasn't sure if he had another trip or what happened. But my niece goes to that school, and then my nephew was in the elementary school also, and they were both on trips. So we began making phone calls and calling the schools and calling other parents and messages and texts, and then it was uncovered that it was the Eastbrook bus. It was a 6th grade, which was my son's grade. So something let him know that something bad was going to happen, but he just couldn't articulate exactly what or where or who. And I don't know, I felt like maybe if I dug deeper, maybe if I pulled over, maybe if I asked other questions, but honestly, how crazy would I have sounded if I went to the school and said, hey, cancel all the trips, something bad's going to happen, you know? Or how much detail I had. Anyway, so that was the most significant thing that I can recall that my son predicted or was told or shared with me. There were many instances, many occasions where he shared things with me, and they were true. And many things he saw my cousin that passed away, and he used to play with him, he said. So I do believe that he has a gift. I don't know if he still sees or hears or has visions or has telepathy, what. I'm trying to introduce him to it again, and I told him I'm listening to this, so I'm hoping he listens to it as well. But I really do feel that he has a gift, or he had a gift. He can see things. I'll share one more thing. My dad's mom, my grandmother, used to live with us, and I remember one time, like in September, my son said, Mom, she needs to leave this house, otherwise she's gonna die here. And I was like, what is he talking about? And I was pregnant with my daughter, so this was before the whole school bus accident. And he said, she needs to leave this house or she's gonna die here. Like, you need to put her like in a hospital or something. And I said, what? Okay. And then we were looking to put her in a nursing home. My parents didn't want to. Well, my mom didn't want to. My dad was okay with it. Anyway, finally agreed. November, she was moved to the nursing home. December, my grandmother had a major stroke. The facility she was in, they have, it's connected to a hospital, so they were able to resuscitate her. And they called us and said if she would have been in your house, she would have died. And that was another, I was like, how did my son predict this? So I'm not saying that he saved her life, but I feel like he had a feeling. So anyway, the telepathy tapes, by Kai Dickens. I highly suggest you take a listen. This is something that's really touched me, and also because I have a personal connection to it. I think we all have a gift. I think we all can feel like when we say, oh my God, I was just thinking about you and you called me, like there is some type of connection that we all have, a spiritual connection. I just think that the clutter and life and the busyness and the bustle and hustle blocks us from it. But I think there are a lot of people out there that are gifted, and they have this, and they're blessed. They're really gifted and blessed to have this, but it's also scary for them, because it's scary, especially if you don't know what you're listening to, what you're doing. I could see the fear in my son many times. But I just wanted to share this. I wanted to make this about the telepathy and gifts and gifted individuals. So let's make it a great day. Let's make it a successful one, a productive one, and take care. Till next time. Bye.